that his house ain't a home and he's losing sleep. Wife cold as steel, vibe off track. Ask me how the hell to get his edge back.
What's going on, guys? I have a pretty good sponsored video for you today. My man wrote in, the subject line is, she left after everything I tried. Paul, I'm sponsoring a video because I honestly don't understand what I did wrong. I've been following your show, Rolo's, Ryan's, and Rich's for a few years now. I found all of this stuff because I was stuck in a dead bedroom and tired of feeling like nothing I did mattered anymore. The advice finally made sense to me. Focus on yourself, stop chasing validation, get back in shape, get your money right, be less reactive. So that's exactly what I did. I started going to the gym consistently. I cleaned up my diet. I stopped sitting around the house waiting for her attention. I started taking my work more seriously and stopped asking her opinion on every decision. I felt better physically and mentally than I had in years. Then she left. Not when I was overweight, checked out, and miserable. It happened after I got serious about fixing myself. You know, this is something that I do talk about on the podcast a lot. But red pill, it's a lot like counting cards. And that's a concept I got from a guy in the space named Archwinger. He's kind of a legend in the married red pill subreddit. And I mean, think about it this way, right? Like, a lot of people are operating their relationships from a blue pill paradigm, and a blue pill mentality is kind of like going to Las Vegas and, just sort of, hoping for the best. You know what I mean? Like, you're just sort of, hoping that you get the cards dealt right. But, red pill is like you go to a blackjack table and you count the cards. You know what I mean? Like, it gives you a strategic advantage. The hotels don't like it, but you'll win more times than you'll lose, but that doesn't mean you won't still lose on occasion. You know what I mean? So, and here's the thing, you could do everything right and she still might leave because of this thing called Breifeld's law, right? And once she doesn't see you as her best hypergamous option, like, the clock's ticking, I talk about this in Keep Your Bitch, right? That's the book that I dropped in. Where is this at? I've got a stack of books here. In Keep Your Bitch, I dropped this back in December. It's my latest book. It's a guide on maintaining relationships, right? As opposed to, like, get her to fuck you again, which is about fixing a broken one. And Keep Your Bitch, I talk about the sliding scale of attraction. Okay. And just to make it really simple here, essentially the attraction scale's a scale of 1 to 10. And typically when you meet a woman, right, like, you're not in a relationship with her, you're just asking a girl for her number, she's going to have a 5 to 6 range of initial attraction for her to even give you her phone number, to even consider going on a date with you. Okay. That's initial attraction, 5 to 6 range. 6 to 8 range is where kissing and sex tends to happen. Okay. And then 9 to 10 range is she's madly in love with you. But do you see how that progresses? It doesn't start off like, this is why when women like make you wait for sex and they're like, no, I'm holding out, I'm making it, it's like, no, like, it starts with sex and then it goes to love. It doesn't start with love and then go to sex. If you're doing it the other way around, you're going to lose every time. Okay. So if you're married and, you've been married for a long time, typically you did at one point get her up to the 9 or 10 range, more times than not. Right. But, if you start your self-improvement journey, let's say you are in a dead bedroom, she might still be in the 5 to 6 range, right? She might still, have initial attraction for you. You're just not blowing your skirt up anymore. If you can catch her in the 5 to 6 range, you absolutely have a great chance of turning things around. Absolutely. Okay. You can bring her back up the scale. Okay. Once it drops below a 5, right? This is a like 1 to 4 range. you're dead. It's never going to work. It doesn't matter what you do. All right. You could do literally everything right. And by this point, you've probably, like, by the time you finally started turning things around, I'm willing to bet here that you had allowed yourself to be pushed so far down the betatization process, which I talk about in Get Her to, we're not at the 8-minute mark, Get Her to F You Again, right? The betatization process is a 5-step process. And once you get to the bottom of that, where you're in her self-determination phase, you're done. You're done, so bro. Like 9 times out of 10, you're done. Okay. He says, that's the part I can't wrap my head around. She told me I had changed. She said I felt distant. She said she didn't know where she fit anymore. From my perspective, I wasn't pulling away. I was just doing exactly what I was hearing men were supposed to do. See, I see a lot of guys do this too when they get into this work. You know, they kind of a lot of guys at this point, when they find the red pill space, they have a lot of resentment. They have a lot of resentment for their wife. You know, she hasn't been banging him for a long time. They're usually fighting a lot. There's a lot of resentment there. You know what I mean? And a lot of these guys come into the space with that negative attitude, and they get this sort of fuck me or fuck you mentality with it all, right? We're not at the 8-minute mark. Guys, do send super chats, would you? And so they tend to get adversarial and avoidant when it comes to dealing with their spouse. And here's, like, I'm not a big fan of, attachment styles and stuff like that. But essentially, when you shut her down because you're like, fuck you, I'm going to work on me, right? Because everything in this space has to be taken. You have to understand the nuance with all this kind of stuff, right? And so we'll say things like, shut the fuck up and lift, right? The power of STFU. So a lot of guys will just shut down and stonewall their wife while they go to the gym. You know what I mean? Right? So they get adversarial and avoidant. And instead of, just staying in frame and non-reactive, they purposefully shut down and actively try to avoid their wife, right? She annoys the shit out of me. I'm just going to leave, right? I'm going to be constantly gone. Anytime she starts some shit, I'm going to grab my gym bag and fucking bounce, right? Instead of learning how to properly handle it. That's one of the reasons why you can't just get sound bites from TikTok or tune into the occasional podcast, okay? Because that shit's not going to ever fix your problem, all right? You need to get like a book like this and listen to it on repeat and really understand the nuance with it and the communication tactics that we teach you in the space, so you understand how to navigate this stuff without shutting down and stonewalling people, okay? So they purposely shut down, actively try to avoid their wife. They think they're just focusing on themselves for self-improvement, but they're becoming uncomfortable to be around. All right. Now it's funny because a lot of guys, when they end up in dead bedrooms, come in all shapes and sizes. There's some times where guys are trying to talk to their wife. They're trying to, get conversations going, and she's the one stonewalling them and shutting them out. Like, it's really hard to work with someone like that, right? But a lot of guys come to this space and their wife's not there. She might be a nagging, insufferable bitch, but she at least wants to try to communicate. She's just not very good at it. You know what I mean? And so the guys never learn how to lead that interaction better, and they just shut down themselves, and they become uncomfortable to be around. So I want you to think about this and put yourself in her shoes for a minute, right? How would you feel if, when you tried to talk to your wife about anything and she did something like she gave you something like the silent treatment? Right? You're trying to talk to her and she just shuts down, gives you the silent treatment. How would that make you feel? Or you go to try to talk to her about something that's bothering you and she grabs a gym bag and she just fucking leaves. Like, how would that make you feel? You would feel like you're spinning your wheels and she's too distant. You think she's probably banging someone else, all this kind of stuff, right? I'm not saying this is what you do here, but a lot of guys who find their way to the married red pill do that sort of thing. And they go extreme to one side. They become even more unpleasant to be around. We call this going Rambo. You don't want to go Rambo in your relationship. You're never going to turn your relationship around if you're going Rambo, right? Red pill Rambo. A lot of that sort of stuff comes from scoreboard mentality. You know, a lot of guys fall into the scoreboard mentality when they're trying to turn the stuff around. They start looking at all this shit like it's competition. Like, oh, when she does this, she's winning. Fuck that. I can't have her win, right? If she's doing like this, I'm losing. You know what I mean? They look at everything their wife is doing like a competition, or like she's winning and they're losing, and it builds up resentment, right? And so they get adversarial. It creates a lot of negative tension. They hear things like reward good behavior and punish bad behavior, and then they start rejecting sex and any kind of attempts on her end at connection, even though they don't like her attempts at connection. You know what I mean? Like, so that pisses them off because, well, she's not as enthusiastic as I want. So they get all pissed off at that shit, right? Eventually, your wife, who was sort of already on her way out mentally anyway, when she stopped fucking you, finally slides below the 5 mark on the attraction scale, and it's fucking done. You know, she's like, I just can't anymore. I just absolutely can't. And it's been like this probably for several years leading up to this, and it's just the straw that broke the camel's back. And then she'll go online and complain about how red pill ruined her husband, right? Even though you didn't find this space because you were happy in your marriage. You know what I mean? Like, you weren't like a happy-go-lucky marriage and then found the red pill, right? You were miserable in the relationship because she wasn't fucking you, and then you found the red pill, and then you just couldn't get out of the resentment, and you made it worse. That's what typically happens, okay? I'm not saying that's what happened to you, but that's what typically happens. I thought getting better would bring us closer. Instead, it felt like the more I focused on myself, the more uncomfortable she became. She started questioning everything, where I was going, why I was gone more, why I wasn't checking in the same way. I didn't think I was doing anything extreme. I just wasn't structuring my life around her moods anymore. You know, all that kind of shit is a shit test, bro. All that kind of stuff, right? Because once you start working on yourself and you start, you know, trying to self-improve, she's going to test you even harder, because she's like, wait a second, what's gotten into he's changing something. I don't know what it is. And she wants to make sure that this new version of you is the new, like the actual version of you, and not just some kind of facade that you're putting on to try to get her to fuck you, right? Like, women can test this shit. They can sense this stuff. And one of the ways they do that is through shit tests, by throwing even more stuff at you. And so that's why you have to learn like how to maintain frame, how to agree and amplify, how to act indifferent, how to use Luca and other communication tools like fogging, negative assertion, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You're not gonna get that from a fucking TikTok video, or, you know, a quick blog post, or, you know, maybe a one-off podcast episode I do. Okay, you have to study this shit and make it a part of who you are, so that when she does it, you do it on instinct. You do it out of habit. You do it like it's, you know, like that's just how you normally act, right? Because that's the only way she's gonna go, okay, no, this new version of him, I like it. It's really him. He's passing all my tests, right? A big part of getting out of a big part of fixing a dead bedroom situation also is getting out of your girl's frame, right? Building your frame up and inviting her into your frame. But there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. Okay, so withdrawing from her frame the right way, it looks like this, right? You're stepping out of her frame. You're recognizing that you've been operating in her frame. You step out of it so that you rebuild your own structure. You establish your standards of living, how you're going to do things. You decide what in your life is important, and you want to create your vision, and you stop reacting to her moods, tests, and approval cues, right? You learn how to handle all that stuff better. Okay. That kind of withdrawal from her frame, it's subtle, it's non-performative. He's not trying to make a point. He's not trying to send a message. He's simply no longer organizing his life around her. And then from her side, she's going to test that a little bit. But once you pass all the tests consistently, she's going to feel like, oh, he's solid again. I can't get my way with him. I kind of like this sort of thing. He's not seeking my permission. He's being decisive. There's something I can step into. I can enter his frame and feel safe and secure now in this relationship, right? Then she'll want to enter your frame. What a lot of guys do is they do it the wrong way, right? So here's where they screw it up. They withdraw, right? They do all this stuff to try to get a reaction out of her, to try to punish her, right? Like, oh, she did this, that pissed me off. I'm going to fucking do this. Fuck that bitch, right? To regain leverage, or to try to force desire. You can't force desire. You can only inspire desire. You get me? So even though they're doing less, they're still mentally in her frame. They're still operating in her frame. Right? So she feels more tension, negative tension, not even the good kind. She can sense that you're keeping score about stuff, right? And she can just sense the overall conditional energy of it, right? It makes her feel unstable. So you have to ask yourself, how were you really doing it, brother? Were you doing it because you were really trying to self-improve, or were you doing it because you were trying to get her to fuck you more, right? Because that's the rub. If you're doing all this stuff to try to get her to fuck you more, which is usually the motivation, you're operating in her frame. You're not doing it for you. What really messes with my head is that I didn't start improving to leave. I started improving to fix things. I thought if I showed up stronger, more confident, more put together, the relationship would naturally get better. Instead, it fell apart. So here's where the cookie crumbles, bro. It was all just one big giant covert contract. It was all just one big giant covert contract. You weren't doing it for you. You were doing it for her. You were doing it for the relationship. All right? Women can sense this sort of thing. They can sense when you're not doing it for yourself, when you're not leading your own life. All right? It's one of the hardest things for men to shake in this process. It really is. Because you're still operating in her frame when you're operating from covert contracts like this. Okay. Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. You know, I have to put a book cover out there like this, get her to fuck you again, because that is the motivation, right? I want to get my wife to fuck me again. So I have to say, here's the book that'll help you do it. But the paradox is that if you do all this stuff just for that end goal, you're not going to be able to do it. It's a fucking total paradox, right? All this stuff you have to do because you want to be a better version of you for you. And then you got to let go of any kind of attachment to outcome. And the wild thing is when you let go of that attachment to outcome and you're like, I'm just literally just trying to work on myself. So I'm the best absolute version of myself with or without her. That's the only way she's going to come back around, because it's the only thing that's going to be authentic, right? Women are really good at trying to figure out if you're congruent or not, right? And what does congruency mean? It means, do your words match your actions, right? If you are truly doing this for you, regardless of whether this is going to work out or not, you are going to be authentic in everything you do because you're doing it for you. You know what I mean? It's fucking hard. It's fucking hard. I'm not saying it's easy, guys. But, you know, one of the things that we talk about this in Wolfpack a lot, you know, like you it's just like gaining weight. You didn't gain, 100 pounds or, 50, 100 pounds or whatever. If you're an overweight guy, you didn't gain all that overnight. You're not going to fix this shit overnight. Okay. Your relationship didn't completely crumble overnight. It usually took months or years to work up to this point, and men are just oblivious to this shit. We're just absolutely oblivious to this stuff. The only time we actually start noticing is when she stops fucking us. And then the nagging that she's been doing this whole time really starts to be a little bit louder because she's not fucking you, right? Like when she's nagging you, but at least she's fucking you, you're like, yeah, whatever. That's just women. It's just women. But when she's nagging the shit out of you and then she stops fucking you, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what the fuck happened here? I couldn't help but notice you weren't fucking me. Yeah. Isn't that wild? All right. So he says, now I'm sitting here questioning everything. Did I start too late? Did I do it wrong? Did I misunderstand what the stuff actually means? Or was the marriage already over and I just didn't know yet? I don't regret getting in shape or handling my business. My life is objectively better now, but I didn't expect the cost to be my marriage. Well, at this point, does it really matter, brother? Right? You can't change the past. You can only change what happens in your future by what choices you make in your present. So, working on your frame and fitness, that wasn't time wasted. It absolutely wasn't time wasted. You're already in a better position for your next relationship whenever you're ready for that. And we could speculate on if you were too late. Did you do it wrong? Did you misunderstand this stuff? Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going off what you put here in the email. I don't know, like, all the ins and outs of what was going on in your marriage, right? So largely this is all speculation. It's just speculation. It's very educated speculation based on what I see other guys doing constantly. You know what I mean? But maybe you did it right. Maybe you didn't. All that really matters is, what did you learn from it? And do better going forward so you never end up in this situation again. That's the most important thing, brother. I wouldn't dwell on it too much or beat yourself up. A lot of guys, man, we are so hard on ourselves, aren't we? We are so hard on ourselves. We beat ourselves up constantly. And that does nothing to help you move forward. It really doesn't. That negativity just causes you to spiral downward more. So I wouldn't focus so much on this. Just try to look at what you could have done better. And also, when you first met your wife, did you overlook any red flags? Because a lot of guys overlook tons of red flags and shit, right? They date ineffectively, they sniper date and all this kind of stuff. Now that like, this all fell apart, the only way up is the only way out is up from here, brother. All right. So he goes, that's why I wanted to sponsor an episode on this. I feel blindsided. I followed the advice, did the work, and still lost the relationship. I don't want to walk away thinking self-improvement is pointless, but right now I don't understand why doing the right things seem to make everything worse. I'm hoping you could break this down because I'm clearly missing something. It's all good, brother, right? Don't spend too much time focusing on it, all right? The only way out is up. If you haven't yet, I would recommend that you get Forget That Bitch, right? It's my guide to breakups, but really it's a guide on rebuilding yourself stronger so that this never happens to you again, right? That's my goal for all you guys, right? I want to educate you guys so that whatever position you're in, you never find yourself in the shitty position that brought you to this godforsaken space. Okay? It's all about learning what mistakes you possibly made and never get here again, right? All right, guys, that's all I got. What do we got here in the chat? Brother David's in the house. He's a little bit of a legend. I don't know if you guys know him. Everybody in the Wolfpack does. Ready for the Bauer Power half hour. Eric Von Erich says, good evening. Brother David says, Friday's episodes are my favorite. It's all about frame. Yeah, and those are the ones that get the least amount of views typically. That's kind of funny. Nurse Chick's in the house. She gets this, guys.
I'm so naughty.
Yep.
I'm gonna come.
Well,
That pussy must be ridiculous.
It is, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let's see here. Hey, Rob Dennis says, finally made it to a live video. Good to see you here, man. Oh, hey, I got a $10 super chat from Brother David. He goes, the Dread course will teach you to have tons of fun time. Yes, it absolutely will. And we're going to, because his wife left him after he worked so hard on himself.
Shame this horse.
We're going to shame these horse. That's what we're going to get. That's what we're going to get. Smashing Like is Alpha. What's going on, brother Dar Fitness, AKA Drake, AKA, that's not his real name, but he goes by Drake in the back. All right, guys. That's all I got for this episode. Tune into the podcast tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the 7 brutal mistakes men make after a breakup. So it kind of is gonna tie in nicely with this stream because we're all talking about hold on, which one's it? Is it this one? There we go. We're talking about he did everything right and she still left. So well, now you're going through a breakup. So don't make these mistakes, brother. Okay. Because now you're in a different part of the red pill space. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the podcast tomorrow. That's all I got for this episode, guys. Do be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and occasionally on Tuesday and occasionally on Thursday. That's all we got. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
You don't fix the storm by folding yourself. She don't want sweet, she wants a man who won't bail. No handouts, no talks, no playing it safe. Earn your ground.